Chickenpox, whooping cough, measles, all very contagious diseases, but all very preventable too. It takes a united effort, though, to wipe those diseases out for good. And while schools can't require parents to vaccinate their children, they strongly encourage it. KXY4's Aaron Luna working for you now with his special report on the vaccination gap and where Spokane measures up. Aaron?
Nadine, diseases that once killed thousands in the U.S. alone now barely break the double-digit mark. Smallpox has been completely eradicated. However, as easy as it is to stop a disease, doctors say if the number of parents that don't vaccinate their children increases, those diseases could easily come back.
What is a baby dog called? A puppy, cub, or calf?
A board game is often better with more players.
Start.
For Kira Stewart Watkins and family, 4 is best.
What's her number?
4.
4.
But they were almost one player shy.
When my children were born, I was actually an anti-vaxxer. So I started off not immunizing my children.
When her daughter Ivy came down with whooping cough at 18 months, the board game champ almost didn't make it.
I was just holding her the entire time and she would just gasp and then stop breathing and then gasp again, and it felt like an eternity of her not breathing. I'm sure it was not that long, but it certainly felt that way.
Since then, Kira has changed her mind about vaccinations.
And I just couldn't imagine ever putting her through something like that, and it was my fault because I had chosen not to vaccinate her.
However, on the playing field of infectious diseases in Spokane, it's easy to find parents that choose to roll the dice.
So we decided that we were going to go more naturally, let their bodies fight on their own, and so far we've been very lucky.
At Jefferson Elementary on the South Hill, close to 12% of students are not vaccinated. It's one of the highest exemption rates in the district. A small percentage for medical reasons, a small percentage for religious reasons. A majority because they just don't want them vaccinated.
I think it's better to just have a natural immune system, be able to fight off things, and then if they have like an outbreak or something in the school, they just call us and then we just take our kid home.
Along with Jefferson, Arlington Elementary, Finch Elementary, Franklin Elementary, Sacagawea Middle School, and Wilson Elementary all have exemption rates more than 10%. 7 schools have exemption rates 4% or lower, including Grant, Lidgerwood, Linwood, and Roosevelt Elementary. Nobody is required to vaccinate their children. The state doesn't have recommended exemption rates, but everyone watches the numbers.
It's an important thing for all kids to be vaccinated. There's some significant diseases out there that we want to make sure that all kids are immune from.
History shows that infectious diseases can only be eradicated when the vaccination rate is near 100%. In the case of measles, for example, community immunity only happens when at least 95% of the population is vaccinated. Right now, schools like Jefferson are falling short of that target.
You love your children, make sure your children are safe.
Cheryl Sampson is the school nurse specialist for Central Valley School District. She says, watch out for the pitfall of out of sight, out of mind. Like polio, just because nobody's getting sick from it anymore doesn't mean it can't come back.
If somebody were to come back from one of those countries and be having polio, it could be just like the Ebola crisis where it could be brought into our country.
But who chooses not to vaccinate may surprise you.
We don't have the data, saying that rural rates are higher or whatnot, but we do see as a trend that affluent families are following a more delayed schedule.
Students on a delayed immunization schedule contribute to a school's out-of-compliance rate. Students that don't have their immunization records, just transferred schools, or are just running late getting their shots are also grouped into this category. In some Spokane public schools, like Franklin Elementary, the out-of-compliance rate is near 40%.
Well, we keep an eye on it, and we work really hard. Our nurses work real close with parents and call and have conversations, especially when we're not sure if they've had the vaccinations or not.
4, 5, 6.
With any game, there are setbacks. Players take their chances, hoping for the best.
I think, again, as a parent, that's just something that you have to be willing to do. With you and your child gets sick, you stay home. If it's a day or 2 days or a week, and that's just kind of what needs to be done.
Each turn brings a different challenge.
Inclination was to keep them as safe as possible, so there really was no question for me to vaccinate.
Sometimes you have to start over.
I was wrong, and that's really hard to do. I'm not a humble person, and I don't like being wrong.
And sometimes you have to realize we are all in this together.
So no one wants to have to rush their child to the emergency room in the middle of the night because of something that's not supposed to even happen anymore.
I think it's just like more of a personal choice, and it's your own kid, so you get to decide what their future looks like, right?
And Nadine, last year Washington had an exemption rate for children going into kindergarten of 4.6%. The U.S. median average is about 1.8%, so we're above the national average. There's also concern that there's a form for Washington you have to fill out to get that exemption, that the medical exemption is a little bit higher than it should be, so they're going to revamp that form for the 2015 school year.
A lot of people saying it's kind of a confusing form to fill out anyway.
Right. The national exemption rate is below 1%, and ours is about a little bit above 1%. So they're thinking that it might be skewed just a little bit.
In your story, you showed schools with high exemption rates. So what about other schools? How can parents find out how their school is
we looked
doing?
at all the schools in the Spokane Public School District, and we posted that to our website. So you can definitely go to kxly.com and check out which school you go to and see the percentage. You can see how many children are in that school and how many have been completed as well.